And I just had a reflection that I thought I would share with you. So the other day I was writing an email to someone I knew who used to be a friend, and we had gone through a very difficult set of circumstances together, and the relationship had fractured. And I wanted deeply from my heart to write an email or a letter of apology in the hope that we could reconcile, or if that was what was meant to happen. So I wasn't attached to an outcome. Mind you, that's a story in itself. It took me forever to clear the energy of being attached to the outcome. And that's leading into what I want to share with you today. That words matter, but the energy behind the words matters more. And the first time I went to write this letter, I wrote it, and honestly, it took me months. I worked diligently on myself, and I tried to get to a place where in my heart, I really meant what I was saying, and I was very sincere and very authentic. And I read it to my mentor, who said to me, and I went, what? And she said, what's the energy behind your words? And I'm like, well, genuine, sincere. I really believe, I really mean it. And she had me dive deeper and deeper. And I realized that I was still attached to an outcome. I still in my mind had a desire for something to happen as a consequence of me writing this note. And again, 3 months later, of working on myself, excuse me, I gave it another shot because I felt I was in a much clearer place. And I can tell you that I felt a real difference this time. And so looking at the energy behind any of the words that you use, whether you're speaking in person or shooting a video or writing a note to someone or writing an email, really matters. And I've learned that because I've actually had the experience of it now. And I wanted to share it because it doesn't matter what kind of communication it is. The energy inside you that's behind the communication, whether it's words or writing, really is worth considering. And it requires some quite deep reflection. And if something happens and you're angry and you shoot a reply back and it's a stab in the heart for someone else, then you know full well that the energy behind that was pretty violent, because you do want to stab them in the back. And that's why people are always saying, if something happens, stop, take a couple of breaths, relax, step away, calm down, and then respond. But I'm discovering that even when you step away, you calm down and then respond, there can still be threads of that old energy behind the message that you're trying to deliver. So whether it's at work, at home, with friends, or in a public scenario, whatever you're saying, make sure that the energy behind your words matches the words and is genuine, because that congruence is felt by other people. And so it's interesting because words can really hurt. I know. I've had some horrible things said to me and they really hurt, and I go away, and if I let them in, I mull over them forever and beat myself up and do all that sort of stuff. But when you start to think of things in terms of, well, what's the energy behind that from the other person, then it starts to give you some insight and perhaps some compassion for what's going on with them. And I hope this makes sense and it's not too esoteric, but in terms of quantum physics, it's not that esoteric. And I talk about nonverbal communication all the time. And we talk about voice tones, vocal variety, micromuscle, microcolor changes in our faces, and our breathing. And I also talk about what we're thinking inside our heads, because whatever you're thinking shines out of you. Excuse me, because you can't hide the nonverbals. They'll come out in some way. But one thing that I don't often mention, and perhaps because for some people it does sound a bit far out, but I don't mention the energy that's behind the communication. So when you're writing, it's harder to see. That's why texts are a terrible way to communicate, especially in a relationship. And that we're moving closer and closer and closer to just communicating by text or WhatsApp or message or Facebook or whatever it might be. But when we're actually interacting on the phone, where you can pick up the nonverbals through the voice, or even in Zoom or a video kind of a chat, you can still pick up the nonverbals. But no matter what happens when you're writing, the energy is attached to the words. The people can't pick up the nonverbals. And think of the number of times you've sent a text or an email and it's been misinterpreted. So for you, it's misinterpreted because you didn't send it, meaning that. But the way it's received is not the way you intended to send it or you intended it to mean. But they don't know that because they can't read any of your nonverbals. But there's still the energy in the written message. So I leave you with this. Every communication that you have from now on, examine yourself first and the energy in your heart. And are you actually coming from a clean, pure heart when you say this? And are you congruent? Do you really believe what you're sending as the message? And there's no need to be harsh and nasty and mean. Just if you're inclined to go that way, stop, go back, reflect inside. And when you can sit in the wisdom of your heart and use the compassion and the love that's in your heart and have that sincere, authentic feeling behind the message that you're sending, then there's a much greater likelihood that it will be interpreted in the right way. So there you go. Think about it. What's the energy behind the words that you use to communicate? I hope that's helpful. Bye.
Always look on